Hey everyone, so following all the controversy surrounding the LG C10 or the CX, whichever way you want to pronounce it, I thought I'd make this follow-up video. Now, if you haven't seen my previous two videos on the LG CX versus C9, what I'll do is I'll link them in the description below. Please go and watch them first, because that will give you more of an idea in terms of the main differences and what the downsides supposedly are of choosing the CX over the C9. So primarily it comes down to two main things. One of them seems to have gone under the radar slightly. That is the DTS or lack of DTS support in certain regions for this particular model. So as with the C9, you could actually buy it with two different stands, I believe, and there was two different model numbers as well. So the one that I actually have is called 65 C9 PLA, and there was another one, I believe it was MLA or something to that effect. What I'll do is I'll show you by searching later on, but what I wanted to do was obviously just leave it on this comparison page initially. So obviously the DTS issue was something that depending on where you search, so I've searched in the UK, and if we go down here and we just get to the audio section, as you can see here, so on the UK model, according to this website, you do not get DTS support, codec support on the C10, and depending on where you search, so I have had some subscribers who've searched in Europe, other places, and it shows on their particular websites. I have also checked Canada, and I believe Canada was one of the ones where there is no DTS listed, and I believe one of the subscribers also checked USA, and the USA also had it listed as no support for DTS. This video I want to base around the decision. So if you're in a position where you can choose between buying a C9 or a C10, if you're in a position where you can upgrade between a C9 and a C10, what I want to do in this video is just give you my thoughts in terms of what I think the decision should be, and in which scenarios it's worth you upgrading or buying the C10 over the C9, and when it isn't. So the DTS was the first area of concern with regards to the LG CX. The second one is one that's obviously blown up all over the internet and has become a lot more widespread. There's a lot more people talking about it, and that is the HDMI 2.1. Now, if we just go back up on this page and we come to video, I think it was listed under video, maybe further down. You'll be just here. So where's it gone? Just there. So under HDMI, I'll just pull that up so it's the very top one. So under HDMI, both of these look identical. However, LG obviously, as a result of a question asked by a Forbes article, did actually come out and admit that the CX doesn't actually support full bandwidth HDMI 2.1. So for the majority of people, this is not going to be an issue. LG's reasoning behind not supporting full bandwidth support is the fact that full bandwidth, according to them, is only used for 4K at 120 Hz uncompressed 444. Now, and obviously that's 12-bit, so the panel on the CX as well as the C9 is 10-bit. So their reasoning is if the TV can't display the image, then there's little point in them pursuing and continuing with full HDMI 2.1, whereas what they've put in and what most people have come up with a figure of 40 gigabits per second rather than 48 gigabits per second. That particular figure I don't believe has actually been confirmed. However, what they're saying is it's the maximum for a 10-bit 4K 120 Hz uncompressed stream to be playable. Now, people have raised concerns on the internet in other videos and forums with regards to lossless audio. one of the concerns is that whilst the 40 gigabits per second, if that is the correct figure, is actually enough to process through lossless audio, what actually happens is, unless you've got full HDMI 2.1, many articles have actually pointed out that your lossless audio will actually automatically be transcoded, so it's not sending through, your Dolby Atmos streams and your DTSX streams will be transcoded into a codec that is compressed. So despite the fact that you've got the bandwidth there, if it does not have a HDMI 2.1, many people have speculated that you will not get uncompressed lossless audio. What you will get is, you will possibly get Dolby Atmos as well as DTSX pass through. However, they will be compressed formats, so they will be using some sort of a codec to actually reduce the size of those, so they will not be completely uncompressed audio. So whilst you may get those benefits of Dolby Atmos as well as DTSX, you won't actually be getting the full fat version. On the picture side of things, as people have mentioned, obviously the fact that it's a 10-bit panel, for the most part you're never going to even notice the difference. Any difference would be so minute on a 10-bit panel, you would literally be coming down to nitpicking and possibly gradation and posterization, those kind of small details, but even that comes down to processing. And this is obviously where Samsung have gone down the line of, they'll rather put that processing power towards picture benefits as opposed to supporting the full HDMI 2.1. Now, nobody can actually know the true reason for why LG have done this, because last year, obviously, with the C9, the one that I've got, comes with full HDMI 2.1. They're very keen on pushing that. They've aimed this pretty hard at the gaming market coming up. So obviously the new Xbox, the new PlayStation that are coming out, the idea is you buy a TV, if it's HDMI 2.1, it's going to be future-proofed to whatever extent you can actually future-proof a TV, and it will support both of those. Now, it probably will be fine for both of those, even with the reduced bandwidth. However, where I have read it will be affecting people is with regards to PC gamers. PC gaming cards can obviously utilize a lot more than what the next gen consoles from the big two, Sony and Microsoft, PlayStation and Xbox. The hardware that's going into them needs to be mass produced. Therefore, it is in comparison to what you could build as a gaming PC, the gaming PC can obviously push a lot more in terms of detail, frame rates, refresh rates, all that kind of stuff. So possibly the gaming market and the PC market in particular would actually find that they are losing out by choosing the C10 over the C9. So in terms of the two big things, the two big controversies, DTSX will affect anybody, for the most part, who actually uses any type of downloaded content or possibly through some streaming services. If the streaming services are playing DTS or DTSX or DTS HD content, then according to this, obviously the CX, especially in the UK, Canada, and possibly some other regions as well. Obviously, that's something that you'll need to actually check depending on your region, wherever you're looking to purchase, to see whether it is listed here or as it is with the C9, or whether it's like the listing I have for the C10 where it's missing. Essentially, the reason for this is the DTS tuner decoder has actually been removed from the UK model, the Canadian model, and obviously certain other models as well. We're not sure why they've done this, but obviously it's probably somewhere in the line of cost cutting, which also is probably the reasoning for their HDMI 2.1 decision as well. The regions that do get the decoder and you do see it listed under the CX as it is under the C9, that's the first category of people who don't have to worry about this at all. So it's not an issue. They can go out, buy, and they don't need to worry about that. You then have a second category where it's missing as it is for me here on this screen. However, I go through a soundbar, so all my devices are connected to my soundbar, and that then sends just the picture back to the TV over ARC or eARC, whichever one is relevant for the particular soundbar or receiver that you're using. That category of person is also not affected, because all the audio decoding is done before it gets to your TV, so you don't need to worry about that. The third category of people is the ones who stream either from a built-in app, or they using a USB stick or a NAS drive or some sort of memory stick to actually play back media directly through the TV. This category of people will actually be affected by this, because it will no longer be able to actually play that audio. There is also a fourth category where if you're passing through content, so your soundbar is connected to your TV, but your soundbar isn't, whichever device you're playing from isn't connected to your soundbar, then what will happen is currently the CX ones that are missing the DTS decoder can't actually pass through Dolby Atmos and DTS:X, I believe. They don't actually have support for, especially DTS. I'm not 100% sure on the Dolby Atmos. Possibly that may work, but the DTS and the DTS:X HD, all the rest of the DTS formats, they currently do not pass through. We're not sure whether a firmware update will actually come in order to rectify that. So on the audio side of things, obviously, depending on which category you fall into, you can then decide how important it is, whether you even consume any content that's likely to be DTS, or whether, if all you're streaming, for example, if you're just a gamer, more than likely it won't affect you. So what I'm trying to do in this video is go through all the questions that I've had from subscribers. So one of the big categories was gamers. Gamers more than likely will not be affected by the DTS issue, and more than likely, unless you're a PC gamer, you're not also going to be affected by the HDMI issue either. The second category of people is people who are just using it for general movies, TV shows, those kind of things, live TV broadcasts, with no real storage playback, so they're not really playing back from a memory stick or a NAS drive. That category of people, once again, probably won't be affected by either one of these. The third category is obviously the people that have any type of downloaded media, or if they're using certain particular apps that do actually have movies in DTS format, and they're playing directly through the TV. So they don't have a soundbar, no other setup, they're buying this TV as a standalone. They more than likely will be affected on the sound side of things, but once again, the amount of content is going to be very limited, because most content these days will also have either a AC3 stream. Even for downloaded content, sometimes you will have alternatives, so you will have the possibility of playing it back DTS or AC3, I believe is the format, and that one will, as you can see there, AC3 and AC4 are both listed. You also have EAC3 as well. I believe that's mainly just audio, music files, as opposed to video with audio, but it's got all of those. AAC, that's another one where generally you do see quite a lot of video files, TV shows, movies listed with AAC as well. So all of those kind of category of people, they're not going to really be affected either. Now, what I also want to touch on is just coming, scrolling back up again, what I have already noticed in early review videos of the CX is it's very, very fast. So the C9 by no means is a sluggish TV. Switching, the only thing where it does take a bit of time is when you're switching modes, and you'll go from, so when I'm using my TV, for example, I generally just use it in Dolby Vision all the time with my Apple TV, and whenever I switch to something that is just HDR content as opposed to Dolby Vision, it will switch modes, and that switching can sometimes take maybe a second to 2 seconds. Now, early videos that I've seen, and this may be down to editing, I'm not 100% sure on that, because obviously these are uploaded videos. I've not been able to get hands-on with the set, so I can't actually say this 100% for sure, but the time that it takes to switch between modes on the CX seems very, very fast. I mean, you're talking sub 1 second in most of the videos that I've seen. Similarly, when you're pulling up the menu screen, be it the shortcut menu that you get when you just single tap, or the main menu when you hold it, or if you go down to all settings in the bottom left hand corner, all of these are a lot snappier. Now, the actual interface I don't actually like as much, because they've switched to this kind of monochrome black and white. It's meant to be more futuristic type of look, but I feel like they may have actually gone backwards slightly with the look of the interface on the CX. Personally, I actually prefer the C9, the look of it slightly better, but that obviously is subjective, and obviously that comes down to the individual. With regards to the speed of these, obviously you're talking about the difference between the A2 Gen 2, sorry, the A9 Gen 2 and the A9 Gen 3, and I believe that either they've throttled the Gen 2 and that you're not actually using the maximum performance of it, or the Gen 3 genuinely is a much faster processor, and they have actually put a lot of effort into speeding up all those animations, which it could also just be simply as that. If obviously they can run different firmwares on every television, so they could have literally just sped up the animations for that particular firmware. I'm sure the speed of animations and everything, as long as it's fluid, as long as you've not got dropped frames, everything looks fluid. It looks really good anyway. But that's one thing that I have noticed with the CX compared to the C9. Obviously the C9, I'm going off what I've used, my personal usage, so I'm kind of getting used to it by now. I've had it for what I'll be in May, so probably about 3 months now. So over those 3 months, I've had a good chance to get used to the speed of various menus, settings, all these kind of things. And just from early videos that I've seen, it does seem like the CX is a much snappier TV. Not necessarily faster in terms of, because the C9 isn't exactly slow, but in the little things. For example, if you're on PlayStation or your Xbox and you're switching from SDR to HDR, the time that it will take to switch between that is just a tiny bit faster. So these are the small details. Obviously that's what you get with small incremental upgrades that you get with these kind of TVs. Obviously between the C8 and the C9, I believe there was a big jump in terms of processing, in terms of screen protection, in terms of burn-in protection, all these kind of things. Between the C9 and the C10, it's been more a case of finer details being tuned, but the snappiness of the system does look quite impressive. So coming on to the big thing, and obviously the reason most people would have actually clicked onto the video, which one should you choose? Now, contrary to what most people would actually think if you've actually gone back and watched my previous videos, the recommendation that I would actually make at this point for the majority of people is actually going to be the CX, with a few caveats. First caveat is if money is no object, because if money is of importance, then the UK price on the C9 is £19.79 and the C10 is £27.99. So you're talking over £800 difference between the two. Now, if somebody was looking at buying this kind of setup and you currently do not have a soundbar or any type of receiver setup, for the price of the CX, you can currently buy the C9 with the SL10YG, so my soundbar, possibly even with the rear speakers, for less than what you can get the CX for. So in the price that you're buying just the C10, the CX TV, you can buy the C9 with the top of the range 2019 soundbar as well as rear speaker kit. So you're getting a 7.1.2 setup, you're getting the TV same size, and obviously in terms of hardware, as you can see, pretty much almost identical. Your built-in audio speakers and everything, by the way, is identical. A lot of people have posted that the sound is supposed to be better on the CX. If you look at all the technical specs, it's exactly the same. So anything is purely down to processing, and anything down to processing can probably be ported over via hardware upgrades, firmware upgrades, sorry. So coming back to the main point, obviously for the majority of people, money no object, buy the CX because it is the better TV. It's the snappier one, and over the long term ownership of the set, even small differences in terms of speed of menus and things like that will actually improve your interaction and the enjoyability of actually owning that particular set. If money is an issue, then obviously I suggest going for the C9. It's not a downgrade. Some obviously would say that the CX is the downgrade because you're losing the DTS and the HDMI 2.1. In terms of processing power and everything like that, in terms of picture quality and everything like that, for the majority of people, unless you're looking for minute details, you're not going to notice any difference, and especially unless you've got these side by side. If anybody was to actually just go into store or go into buy this and have it delivered into your house, you will not know that the CX is better than the C9, because when you see the C9 picture and audio, you're going to be blown away by it. It is an absolutely incredible looking TV, picture wise, the set itself, physical structure of it and everything. So for those people, obviously choose the C9. If you're a gamer, I would probably suggest the CX, just because for every year that OLED technology advances, obviously the protections that are involved also advance. Your black frame insertion, I believe, especially for gaming, possibly is slightly better. I have heard that it's slightly better on the CX, so that's obviously another advantage. And the final category is obviously your PC gamers. So PC gamers, I would probably suggest avoid the CX, get the C9. The only exception is obviously if you putting this on your desk and you need that 48-inch model. If you need the 48-inch model, then that is only available in the CX. So obviously you're not going to have a choice between C9 and C10 if you're wanting to stick with LG brand. If you are looking at other options, then I believe, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I believe Sony are actually releasing a A8 or A9 model that is also going to be 48-inch. So that's the only other OLED 48-inch that I'm aware of. I'm not sure if it's available yet or whether it's set up in the same way in terms of being very suited to gaming. For gamers in particular, when it comes to response time of an OLED panel, I believe it's 1 millisecond across the board. So if you do see that figure advertised, that will be exactly the same for the C9 as well as the C10. Now, where they possibly could differ is with the actual input lag itself, which I believe the higher you go in resolution and frame rates, the better it will be on the CX. The C9, I believe, has wrongly been stated as having 16 or above milliseconds response time. The tests that I've actually seen on the C9 show it as being roughly around 12.7, 12.8. So people round up to 13 milliseconds for the C9. The CX, I believe, is coming close to 10 milliseconds or something towards that figure. So it's not going to be, unless you're a hardcore gamer, you're not going to notice the difference between the two. So PC gamers aside, everybody else will be okay with either one of these. Ultimately, what it comes down to is your budget, how you're looking to actually have it set up, what type of content you consume, your general usage, so whether you're going to vary your content or not, and also obviously the size that you need, because the size in this year in particular with the CX, you're getting that 48-inch which is available, whereas previous years it just hasn't been available. My personal recommendations, as similar to my initial thoughts when I commented in my previous videos. If you haven't seen those, once again, please go back and watch them, because I did include a lot of details in terms of early thoughts as well as other details in them, so please go and watch them. But similarly to back then, it does come down to what you're looking for from the TV. Either way, you're getting a brilliant TV. You shouldn't look at it either way and think that you're getting robbed on the CX because it's a downgrade, and you shouldn't look at it as the C9 being an older model and therefore obsolete, and basically you have to have the new and shiniest thing. Just on LG itself, I would like to just touch on their strategy, the marketing strategy with how they're actually going about things now. I don't think LG should get a free pass for what they're doing in terms of with the DTS as well as the HDMI more so. Technically, yes, most people will not be affected by these decisions, because for people that don't actually consume any DTS content, they'll never even realize. For the majority of consumers out there, you're talking a very small percentage that actually come onto YouTube or go onto forums and actually do a bit of research. The vast majority of people who are going to be buying these sets are probably going to just watch maybe 1 or 2 reviews, if that, or it will be a case of they go in store and they're sold on it in store by the salesman, who generally, whilst trying to be as fair as possible, most of the salesmen I've actually come across in stores, generally they're not that up to date in terms of technologies and things like that, because their job is literally just to sell. The people that come onto these videos and are passionate and are looking to actually do a bit of research, generally they're gonna look into it a lot more than what the person in the store is going to be basically doing. Simply put, because they have that many sets and that many different TVs to actually sell, that it would actually be kind of difficult for them if they're just doing it as a day job. It's not their passion, that's their job, that's what they're getting paid to do. They may be brilliant salesmen, but it's not necessarily down to them having passion about the technology that they're selling. And for that reason, I wouldn't really expect salesmen to sell TVs based on these kind of differences and picking out exactly what would suit a particular person. Ultimately, what it comes down to is, as long as you're doing the research and you're picking out the TV that is best for you, it doesn't matter whether that's the C9, it doesn't matter whether that's the C10 or the CX, however you want to call it, it doesn't matter whether that's a Sony, it doesn't matter whether that's a Samsung QLED. None of that matters as long as the TV that you buy suits your needs. That is all that actually matters. And don't let anybody on the internet tell you that the set you have is awful because of this reason or that reason. If it suits your purposes and it suits your needs, then that is all that matters. So, as with all of my videos when it comes to these kind of topics, this one seems to have gone on for quite a bit of time as well. I'm always looking for feedback in terms of comments. Any questions or anything that you have, post them in the comment section below. I do my best to reply to every single comment that I get. Obviously right now my subscriber base is very small. Coming on to that nicely, 90% of my viewers currently do not subscribe to my channel. So obviously if you have clicked onto this link, this is something that I do post about. I do make videos, and I have a lot of videos scheduled that I haven't actually posted live just because I've got that many videos. But obviously if you're clicking onto this, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and hit the bell icon. Whenever I post a new video, you'll get notified about it. And as I say, I do my best to reply back to all questions, all comments in the comment section below.